to a new diamond bar, a different diamond bar, a better diamond bar. Now, how many times has this happened to you? You get back your bad test score, and someone has to look, someone just has to look. And when they finally see it, they say, "Oh, I expect that from you." Meaning what? "Oh, because you're Mexican, you're not supposed to have good grades." Or vice versa. How many times has this happened to you? You get back your bad test score, and somebody hits you with, "How are you even Asian? How are you even Asian?" What is that supposed to mean? That just because you're a certain race, you're not allowed to have a certain test score? Or what, because I'm a student of color, I'm supposed to automatically have bad grades? Now, one of the main causes for this is cultural intolerance. And why does this occur? Well, I'll tell you. One of the first problems is diversity. Now, you can't just go and change the diversity of Diamond Bar High School, but you can change how it is reflected in the classroom. Now, we all know Diamond Bar High School is about 65% Asian, that's a given. But what about the other 35%? Who are they? They are blacks, whites, and Latinos, among other ethnicities. And to clarify, an ethnicity is a shared cultural heritage such as Chinese, Korean, Mexican, etc. And a race is the categorization of humans based on skin color, genetics, heritage, like black, white, Latino, and Asian. Now, are these races equally distributed through every single classroom at Diamond Bar High School? And why do you think that is? Just take a moment and think. Well, I'll tell you. Teachers, grit, motivation, and encouragement. Colored children come from more difficult backgrounds as they are more likely to come from third world countries. This is definitely reflected in Diamond Bar High School's test scores. Now, according to a statistical study from the National Center of Educational Statistics in 2016, there was a 32% gap between those who passed in math who were Hispanic and those who were Asian. The gap was even larger, a whopping 76% between those who passed who were African American and those who passed who were Asian. But that's not just where it ends. According to the same statistical study, African Americans and Latinos are less likely to be enrolled in an AP class at Diamond Bar High School than the state and national averages. And according to the same study, the IB enrollment for all non-Asians in the year 2016 was 0%. 0%. And whites, blacks, and Latinos at our school are more likely to live with a mental disability than the state and national averages, with Latinos leading at 18% living with a learning disability here at this school. That is almost 1 out of every 5 Latinos here at this school living with a learning disability. Now, one of the main causes for this is how we're presented in the world. Colored children are constantly told through TV, movies, social media, and their own peers that they are not smart enough to perform at a higher level. I cannot tell you how many countless times people have told me I'm not good enough to be in honors or an AP just because of my race, just because of my last name, just because of the country my family comes from, and the title it holds. Now, I've gotten the jokingly, "Oh, I'm surprised you got a better test score than me because I'm Asian," or, "Wow, I can't believe you did better than me." But I've also heard the really nasty part of just racial stereotype. A student my freshman year used to grab my paper and announce my score to the class, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe a Mexican did better than us." Another student used to ask me almost daily if I had mowed his lawn that weekend. Another student had once asked me why I was still in school and had not decided to drop out yet. And after this current election, several students both jokingly and sincerely asked me if me or anyone in my family was going to be deported and how long we had, as well as asking what my legal status was. But why should our races affect where we are in the academic performances and the classes we take? Maybe it can be the cause of teachers as well. Teachers subconsciously or consciously make judgments about their students based on the way they look, the way they are dressed, and yes, the color of their skin. Students of color I've seen teachers here at Diamond High School generalize Asians as the smart, hardworking, and motivated race. And I've heard certain teachers tell the class that other races should learn from them or even get help from them. But teachers generalize their students not only academically, but behaviorally. According to the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, colored students are 3 times more likely to be suspended and expelled and receive harsher punishments with the same actions as whites and Asians. And grit is also another huge aspect. Grit can be built in a safe learning environment where students and teachers work together to create a safe learning environment where students of all races can come together and work their best. Each student holds their own individual grit level, and their measurements cannot be compared. But I'd like to share a little story about my mother and her education system and how her grit helped her. My mother was the child of 2 immigrants who could not speak a word of English and could not teach their children English prior to putting them in school. Now, she grew up in a small, blue-collar, Mexican-American town in southeast LA with a high school dropout rate of 50%. Now, during her educational time there, she received many put-downs by her teachers, telling her and her peers that they cannot be successful and that they should just stop going to school. And she watched as her peers around her slowly stopped going to school and started their life in the working class. But that didn't stop her. My mother worked hard and became the first person in our family to finish high school and go to college. She earned 2 degrees and is now teaching in the same town where she went to school. Okay, lastly is motivation and encouragement. Okay, colored children account for almost 50% of all students across the nation. But what's sad is we don't have any representation in the books that we read at school. I can tell you throughout all of my years of school, I've never been asked to read a book about my own people, which is sad because 25% of all school children are Latinos, and only 3% of books are about Latinos, according to the National Public Radio. And the percentages get smaller as students get older. But this can be seen across all minorities. If you're an Asian American, how many books have you read about your own culture? More than you could count on 2 hands? How about if you're African American? Do you think the same goes for you? I can tell you that my 3 years at Diamond High School, I've never been asked to read a book about my own people. Only in small literature stories that I can count on 1 hand. And I've never been asked to read a book about Asian Americans who make up a majority of this school. And I've only been asked to read 1 single book about African Americans. Now, if we don't have children read about their own cultures and different cultures, how are we supposed to see them represented in a good way in our society? Through books, we learn not only to appreciate our differences, but also discover the sameness throughout different cultures. Now, what can we do to change all of this? If you are a staff member at Diamond High School, be culturally aware that not all students at this school have the same resources. They may not have the money to take summer classes, have a regular tutor, or even have parents who can help them at home. Make sure to keep a safe learning environment by stopping any students who try to make racial slurs and encouraging all your students to receive a higher education and work their hardest. If you're a student, like staff members, try to keep racial slurs out of your vocabulary. It may seem funny to you, but these can negatively affect the person you are saying them to and make them think lower of themselves. As a whole, Diamond High School needs to take the next step in eliminating racial bias and profiling, as well as making judgments about people's goals and performance abilities just because of their race. If we do all these things, we can create a new, different, and better diamond bar for everyone to enjoy. Thank you.
Let's give a big round of applause for our speakers today. I know that when I was in high school, I would have never had the courage to speak in front of my peers, and they have shared with you very important and relevant messages that hopefully have inspired you to make more proactive life choices. Now, speaking of being proactive, as we all know, being here at DBHS, students at times feel very, very stressful and overwhelmed with a very academically rigorous environment that we have. So if you ever feel overwhelmed, please know the Wellness Center is located next to the Center Quad in room 554, and it's a welcoming, non-judgmental place for you to get any type of support that you need. You can drop by any time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 3 p.m. We offer resources and wellness support excuse me, for individual students, and we also offer educational classroom outreach on most wellness topics. Additionally, we provide a therapy dog every Thursday for much needed stress relief, and that is with our community partners from the Pet Prescriptions team. We're also very proud to share with you that although our Wellness Center has only been open since February of 2016, we have been nationally recognized with an Inspired Changemaker Award from Yale University and Facebook. We have also been recognized by the state with the Gold Ribbon and Golden Bell Awards. In addition to our already wonderful counseling staff here at Dunbar High School, our friendly and dedicated and certified knowledgeable student consultants in the Wellness Center are here to support you. Before we conclude today, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to publicly thank our distinguished panel of judges, Mrs. Kruger, Mrs. Cho, Mr. Rubian, Mr. Lim, Mr. Sandoval, Mrs. Galindo, and Mrs. Varua. I also want to thank Mr. Cates, who has made this production possible, and our theater and our film crew. And Robert and Jordan have been filming. Thank you so much. And also, we are very appreciative. Mrs. G and her art students have made our wonderful TED Talk signs here today. In closing, we want to thank you for being such a great audience, and we hope you enjoyed your TED Talk today. Thank you very much.